Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Hauge, and I would like to share a secret with you. 帅哥, 帅哥, handsome man. 过来吧, 过来吧, come, come, suits, suits. I stopped. I turned. And there in front of me was a well-built man in a well-tailored suit, smiling, confidently, calmly. He continued, Sir, even compared to the NBA players that I make suits for, you are by far more handsome. My suits are the best in all of Shanghai because of price, quality, and guarantee. Come, come, have a look. Something magical happened that afternoon in that tailor's shop. The man, Jack, introduced himself to me, had me sit down, and gave me a cup of tea. He told me the story of how he came from Anhui province to the west of Shanghai. He came without a high school diploma to Shanghai to make a living for his family. He showed me pictures of his family. He showed me pictures of him next to the NBA players that he made suits for. He and I joked back and forth about the challenges of living in China as a foreigner. I began to like Jack. And then something incredible happened. I didn't expect to buy anything that day, but lo and behold, later that afternoon, I walked away with a purchase order in my hand for 3 suit jackets and 8 pairs of pants. 8 pairs of pants. Who needs 8 pairs of pants? I could spill something on my trousers every single day for a week in a row, and I'd still have a fresh pair in my closet. It was not exactly an act of rational consumer behavior. I like to think of myself as an educated, independent, and rational thinker. I've had the immense fortune to attend some of the world's best schools. Boarding schools in New England, an Ivy League college, and then, with the help of a scholarship, Fudan University in Shanghai. So I shouldn't be able to be persuaded by just anyone, right? I couldn't have been more wrong. And I think we all think like this. We all believe that we're unpersuadable in some way or another. And when it happens, we have this hollow, empty feeling in our stomach. It doesn't feel good. None of us like to be persuaded. And yet, if we're honest with ourselves, I believe that we'll see that this happens to us every single day. Advertisements on the television and on our smartphones, conversations with colleagues and friends about where to go for lunch, and reminding our sons and daughters that it's time to go to bed or time to do their homework. Yes, none of us like to be persuaded. But what separates those who persuade from those who are persuaded? In one word, ladies and gentlemen, skill. And it's not a skill that's just available to politicians in Washington, Brussels, and Beijing, or financiers in Manhattan, London, and Hong Kong, or even corporate executives in Los Angeles, Tokyo, and Shanghai. These skills of persuasion are available to all of us if we just know where to look. Now, since that day when I bought those 8 pairs of pants, I've done a lot of thinking, researching, and writing about persuasion. In fact, since that day, I've left my previous career in finance to become an educator, coaching young men and women and corporate executives alike about the finer arts of persuasive speaking. And I'm here today to share a secret with you all. And that secret is the golden triangle of persuasion. Now, thousands of years ago, the ancient Greeks had a governmental structure known as Athenian democracy, in which every citizen was given the right to vote on things such as legislation and executive orders. This inspired a group of citizens who called themselves sophists to persuade others through neat and stylish arguments and teach others how to do the same. The famous philosopher Plato was vehemently opposed to this idea, citing that persuasion is not a means to uncover great life truths. So who was right? Plato, who believed that persuasion was mostly worthless, hot air, or the sophists, who believed that educating and empowering others was truly a good thing for society. Another man was soon to enter the scene by the name of Aristotle, and he ingeniously devised a solution that fell neatly in between Plato's and the sophist viewpoints. Aristotle wrote the seminal text of Persuasion, otherwise known as Rhetoric, and he creatively called this book Rhetoric. Now, what Aristotle wrote was that the purpose of argumentation is to persuade a listener that your ideas are valid. And there are 3 ways to do this: ethos, pathos, and logos. At Learning Leaders, the Debate and Public Speaking Institute, where I coach in Shanghai, we refer to ethos, pathos, and logos as the golden triangle of persuasion. Ethos, appeal to credibility and trust. Pathos, appeal to emotion, and logos, appeal to reason. Now let's break these down one by one. First, ethos. Ethos is appeal to trust. We naturally believe those who we respect, like, and trust. We see this all the time around us. When people speak from a position of authority or when we have a pre-existing relationship with that person, we are much more easily be persuaded. Now, where do we see this every day? Well, advertisements are one. Endorsements from celebrities or athletes are probably the most typical use of ethos we see in our daily lives. The corporations that have these products or services want us to associate the trustworthiness of these celebrities and figures with their products. Another way we see ethos is through credentials. After all, if you have the initials PhD after your name, you have a great degree of credibility, that is. The same is true for people who graduate from brand name schools or who work for famous companies. They all serve to build trust. And if you yourself aren't an expert on a topic, you can borrow the credibility and authority of others. We do this every single day by citing experts and citing other people's opinions. And if you don't believe me and don't want to take my word for it, listen to Woodrow Wilson, the 26th President of the United States, who famously quipped, "I not only use all the brains that I have, but all those that I can borrow as well." Ethos, appeal to trust. Now, pathos, the second side of the golden triangle of persuasion, is the appeal to emotion. By tugging at someone's heartstrings and making them feel what you feel, you can persuade very easily. That's why it should be no surprise that the words sympathy and empathy are directly derived from this word pathos. Imagine you're walking down the street and there's a woman there holding some beautiful puppies in her hands. She says to you, "Please, sir, ma'am, I have some puppies here. Can you please adopt one?" Perhaps. They are very cute after all. But now let's imagine if she took a more persuasive approach, employing more pathos. You approach her, and she says to you, "Please, sir, ma'am, I've just found these puppies that they've been abandoned. They're so innocent, they can't fend for themselves. They're going to starve to death unless someone adopts them. Please, will you adopt one?" Connecting with you on an emotional level can be an incredibly powerful persuasive tool. Pathos, appeal to emotion. Now, the final side of the golden triangle of persuasion is known as logos, appeal to reason. Logos is having an internally consistent argument, presenting your argument, supporting it with reasoning or rationale, evidence or examples, and then ultimately tying it together by describing the impact or implication of your point of view. Facts, statistics, graphs, charts, and figures all serve to increase logos. The word logic is derived from the word logos. Probably the best example we can find in recent memory is Al Gore's Academy Award-winning film, An Inconvenient Truth. Former US Vice President Al Gore is persuading everyone in the audience about the immediacy and impactfulness of climate change. And he did so tremendously through the use of visualization of evidence. But I think we also know this intuitively to be true. Let's compare the following two statements. First, climate change may be happening. It's been pretty hot recently. With climate change may be happening. 20 out of the 21 hottest years on record since 1860 have occurred in the past 3 decades, according to a panel of experts from the United Nations. Facts, statistics, and evidence all help persuade. Logos appeal to reason. So now that we have a good sense of how ethos, pathos, and logos all work together, it's important to remember that in different settings, we must employ different amounts of each. For instance, in my previous career in finance, we would frequently make investment presentations. And in these, we relied heavily on ethos and logos. Ethos, who our company was and why you should trust us with your money. And logos, what your 3, 5, and 7-year investment returns will be like on an annualized basis. Here are the stats to prove it. And yet, if you're a young man or woman in the audience and you'd like to persuade your mother or father to buy you a new iPhone, you might take a slightly different approach, employing pathos. Please, Mom, please can I have a new phone? All my friends at school have one and I don't. Whenever they talk, I feel left out. You don't want me to grow up without any friends, do you? I think someone here has used that one before. But even then, a more well-rounded argument would employ ethos, logos, and pathos in equal degrees. Let's examine this one. Mom, as you know, I've been wanting to get a new phone for the last 2 years now. I've been very responsible recently. My grades have improved from an 87 to a 90 average, and I haven't lost or damaged the phone that you've lent me. Plus, I've researched the phones thoroughly, Mom. I believe that the iPhone is best for me because of price, quality, and guarantee. And Mom, all my friends at school have one, and you don't want me to be the only one without one, right? You don't want me to grow up without any friends, do you? We can see that when used together, ethos, pathos, and logos can be extremely powerful. So now, let's take a step back to our friend, Jack. Remember what he said to me? Sir, even compared to the NBA players that I make suits for, you are far more handsome. I have the best suits in Shanghai, best because of price, quality, and guarantee. Looking at it a second time, it cannot be more obvious. Ethos, he makes suits for professional basketball players, thus demonstrating credibility. Pathos, he preys upon my emotional sensibilities of self-importance by calling me handsome. And logos, he provides 3 cogent reasons why his suits might be the best in Shanghai. I learned a millennia-old secret of persuasion from a tailor from rural China. 1 week later, I received my suits, all 3 suit jackets and 8 pairs of pants. I felt disconcerted. I felt hollow. I felt empty, as though I'd been persuaded of something. Of course, you might say. Of course you've been persuaded. He's a salesman. That's his whole goal, to manipulate you into buying these things. Manipulation is persuasion, right? I couldn't disagree more. Persuasion, it can be tempting to view persuasion as a Machiavellian method or stratagem of manipulation. But persuasion in and of itself is neither good nor bad, though it can be used for both. For every Hitler, bin Laden, and Jim Jones that commits atrocities, inhuman atrocities, using the art of persuasion. There is a Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., there is a Gandhi, there is a Malala, using these skills of persuasion to enact positive social change. We need more leaders. We need leaders who take it upon themselves, who take the ethical responsibility to use these skills of persuasion for good, enacting change in their local and global communities. So whether you're a leader, a learner, a dreamer, a doer, a mentor, or a champion of one of these causes that will improve the life on this planet for everyone, it is your responsibility to learn about persuasion. And more than that, it is your responsibility to teach others as well. And I don't just mean teach them about how to fend off a suit-toting salesman. I mean teach them how to use ethos, logos, and pathos to make the world that we all want to live in. By showing someone else something they've never seen before, by teaching someone else how to scale a mountain that they've never climbed. That is persuasion, and that is leadership. Persuasion is the single most powerful force for change that we have. On an interpersonal, on a communal, and on a global level. And on a more personal level, persuasion empowers all of us to be heard, to be respected, to be understood. And I cannot think of a single more important thing than that. To teach everyone to be heard, to be respected, to be understood. 谢谢大家。